The magic is in the movement. The art is in the programming. The science is in the explanation, and the fun is in the community. Greg Glassman wrote this in 2005 when explaining CrossFit in its infancy. At the time, I'd personally tried a few CrossFit workouts at my local Globo gym. A BJJ partner of mine had told me about this crazy new workout thing, and I'd looked it up online, and so I did Angie, which is 100 pull-ups, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and 100 air squats for time. At that time, I didn't really understand that for time meant go fast, man. And so I just kind of leisurely did it. I rested, I stretched, and I was like, I don't get it. What's the big deal? Obviously, at that time, I did not understand the magic. Well, I'd argue that I really didn't understand anything. And it wasn't until almost 5 years later that I actually stepped foot in my first CrossFit gym. And really, that's when everything changed for me. I went from being someone who was young and generally fit and athletic to someone who was really fit, and more importantly, someone who is obsessed with fitness. So what changed? At the time, I had been running a bit. I'd been doing some body weight movements, push-ups and pull-ups, and I had done some traditional lifting, mostly with like an upper body, bench press heavy emphasis. And when I found CrossFit, a lot of those movements got swapped out for more functional movements. More multi-joint barbell lifts, more lower body emphasis, and then some of that higher skill or dynamic gymnastic stuff CrossFit's known for, like kipping pull-ups, toes to bar, muscle-ups, all of that. These movements were alien, they were challenging, they made me feel athletic, and they were really fun. They gave me something to practice and to refine and chase, and they were potent, right? A set of thrusters has a metabolic, a whoosh effect, an ability to leave you on your back that a set of bicep curls just does not match. So naturally, at the time, I thought, well, that's the magic. But looking back now from where I am, having coached thousands of athletes, having owned a gym for 10 years and going through my own sort of up and down journey with CrossFit and sometimes with exercise generally, I am not so sure. In fact, I think that Glassman and CrossFit, they might have got things backwards or maybe sideways from what they intended when they tried to lay out what made CrossFit so potent and so important for so many people. Because in that quote, they give a lot of credence to what I'm going to call the hard stuff, the movements, the programming, the science that is present in CrossFit. And they use terms like that, art, science, magic, to describe them. But then they only really mention one soft thing, right? They say, oh yeah, the community is fun too. And my working hypothesis, the thing that I've been kicking around in my brain recently, is that Glassman and CrossFit thought that they were geniuses and innovative about the hard stuff, when in actuality, where they were really making big gains, what they were really amazing at was soft stuff. They were great at things like community, identity, habit formation, sense of purpose, imparting those onto their members. Because at the end of the day, it is undeniable that CrossFit's greatest contribution has not been to high-level sport or strength and conditioning. You would be hard-pressed to find dedicated athletes at really any high level of accomplishment or competition who use CrossFit as their primary training methodology. And that is okay. That's what we're going to talk about, because that's not who CrossFit was really for. Not really, not actually, when you really get into it. So who was CrossFit for? It was for normal people, kids out of college, and moms and dads and teachers and doctors and retirees, right? CrossFit is built on concepts from the Russian strength and conditioning coach Yuri Verkhoshansky that had been brought to America and brought to the American mainstream by a guy named Mel Siff in his book Super Training. And the main idea is the idea of General Physical Preparedness, what's often called GPP. GPP was an off-season training phase for competitive athletes, where they would work on general conditioning to improve strength and speed and endurance, flexibility, structure, skill. Sound familiar? It was meant to help prevent imbalances and boredom with both specific and non-specific exercises by conditioning the body to do work. Basically, athletes would do GPP to build their base, to play around, to move more holistically, more in balance, and then as they got closer to their season, they would knuckle down, they would specialize and focus on whatever their sport required. Because here's the thing I think most people miss when they think about this. Verkhoshansky and Sif and Glassman too, they all realized that burnout and non-adherence don't only come from elite athletes overtraining or injuries in sport or over-specialization, but for normal people, often they come from very human challenges like boredom, or a lack of training excitement. And this is what CrossFit was and is really great at. And I'm not sure if this was by design or if Glassman did this on purpose. He had designed CrossFit as his own small group training model where he would train 3 or 4 people at a time. And then kind of without any doing on his part, gyms started asking, can we affiliate? Can we teach this model? Before he knew it, there were gyms popping up all across the world and they were teaching 10 or 20 or more people. Gyms had hundreds of people who are all uniting around shared methodology, but also shared culture and shared excitement. And I think that's what actually makes CrossFit so powerful, that it takes your Joe from accounting or Miss Jenkins, your biology teacher, and it gets them super invested in their fitness. It gets normal people to treat exercise not as a little side dish that they sprinkle into their week, but as the main course, as the thing they look forward to each day, as the community that they enjoy spending their time in, as what they plan their weekends around. It takes people who may have been, active, who maybe ran a little bit or did yoga a couple times a week, and it gets them going to the gym consistently 4, 5, 6 times a week. It gets people to think about what they're eating because of how it might make them feel during their workout later that day. Maybe they skip happy hour to get sleep before their group class the next morning. They make better decisions. CrossFit's main magic was in creating identity change, creating buy-in and adherence and interest and fun. There are few people in the world so intrinsically motivated that sight unseen, they decide, I want to meet a fitness or performance goal, and they just set about doing it in a vacuum. Most people need a little salsa on that taco, whether that's competition or movements that make you feel athletic or rituals and myths like CrossFit's girl or hero workouts. CrossFit, knowingly or not, did that really, really well and created lots of super fit, super invested people. Most people need a little salsa on that taco, whether that's competition or movements that make you feel athletic or rituals and myths like CrossFit's girl or hero workouts. CrossFit, knowingly or not, did that really, really well, and it created lots of super fit, super invested people. So I'm planning to do a companion piece to this about how to apply some of these ideas to yourself, how to benefit your own fitness, whether that's training CrossFit or training some other way. It's about a lot of other things that I've been thinking about recently, things like identity and dedication and change. But to circle back and finish up on this thought, I want to make it clear that I think what CrossFit did is really hard and was absolutely revolutionary. Out of disparate parts, they created a training philosophy that was more rigorous and more intentional than 99% of what was currently on offer, while also being 99% more fun and exciting than the more nose to the grindstone performance-based stuff out there, while also fitting it into an hour-long experience and also charging people a reasonable rate for it. They did a lot of things all at once. In short, what they did was they didn't let perfect be the enemy of good. And in doing that, they made something that was very, very good. And like anything that lasts for a long time, over that time, the faces and the environment may change and things can sometimes drift. And I do think CrossFit drifted for a while, but I have always paid attention to what they're doing. And lately, in many ways, I think they're starting to find their feet again. And they've started to incorporate some lessons and trends from other parts of the fitness industry when in the past, they would have always kind of held those at arm's length. I'm interested to see where they're going, and I've been thinking about how to apply some of these lessons to my gym. How do we use these ideas to better create programs that are accessible and interesting and potent and fun? And what do we take with us and what do we leave behind? I'm interested to hear what you think about this. If you are a CrossFit OG, tell me what got you in and what's kept you in. If you're someone who drifted away, where did that disconnect happen and what would they have to do to earn you back? comment on this, send me a message, send this to someone who you think might have a hot take on this, and as always, thank you for watching.